with me, Nick, just while we're waiting for the recording to start?
All right.
All right. Okay, so I think people will keep joining in, but everyone, hello to Leoni. Leoni is the class people will keep joining. We just finished our training on Friday or Saturday, and so everyone is going to be starting this week on Upwork. And thanks for volunteering. Over to you to share your experiences on how to be successful in Upwork.
Cool. All right. So my experience on Upwork, I'm still working on Upwork right now in a long-term job with a startup from the United States. But when I started, I obviously really didn't know at all what I should expect from that platform, right? A friend of mine recommended me the platform to see if I could get some smaller or bigger jobs there, but I didn't know anything about it. And so in the beginning, I think it can be kind of overwhelming because it's one of the, I think, world's biggest platforms for freelancing. And there are a lot of jobs out there and a lot of clients who are looking for someone to either join their team or do a small job for them. And so I think in the beginning, for me, it was important to figure out what I was actually expecting from joining that platform. Was I expecting to find a full-time job? Was I expecting to just do some intermediate small freelancing until I was hired somewhere else? Was I trying to really build a network of clients and kind of build up my freelancing career? So depending on that, you might approach Upwork a little different. My approach, so for my personal experience, I really didn't expect anything. I was just looking at it and trying to see what I could get out of it. And so in the beginning, so the tricky part about Upwork, and I think that applies to most freelancing platforms in general, is how to find a good job and how to find a job that you're suitable for, right? There are a lot of jobs, and I'm certain that there are jobs that you are very suitable for working in, but how can you find them? And obviously there are two parts of the equation. So it's you trying to find good and suitable jobs and applying to them. But on the other hand, it's also the clients who are actively, in some cases, looking for someone to hire. And so let's start with that part of the game. If the client is looking for you or is looking for someone to hire, he needs to be able to find you. And that in the beginning on Upwork can be a bit tricky because in the beginning, when you are creating an Upwork profile, you don't have any badges. You didn't do any tests. So it's really hard for clients to find you because obviously they have a search algorithm and they are kind of ranking people depending on how many jobs they already got, based on keywords, based on if you kind of passed the Upwork test so that you have a certain level of security for the client as well, right? And so I think in the beginning for me, it was important to do a certain number of small actions in order to get to some sort of, that I was kind of appearing in searches of clients, right? So if they are searching for someone, I think some of the things Upwork is immediately telling you that you should do them. So you should, I think, pass 1 or 2 tests just so that they know, oh, they invested some energy in building up a good profile. Obviously, having a good profile with significant keywords is also super important. And then actually getting some jobs and some reviews from clients, that's super important as well. Because when you have, that can be really small things, right? That can be kind of a job for 5 hours or for 10 hours or something like that. But once you got first super small jobs and you get good reviews from the client, that kind of is a starting point for someone new looking at your profile and saying, oh, well, yeah, someone was already satisfied with their work, so I might be as well. And imagine you looking at a completely empty profile without any reviews yet. That is just, I think that's the first thing you just get to get done. And in the beginning, obviously, that won't be like the best and most interesting and most well-paid jobs, right? So in the beginning, I took some jobs that I would consider low paid and that I thought I was super overqualified for. But they were fast and I got good reviews from the clients. So that was kind of the reward I was doing the job for. I wanted to do those small jobs just to get a good feedback from clients and so that my profile got a little bit stable on Upwork, I would say. And yeah, and then there's the other part that I in the beginning mentioned of the equation, you searching actively for jobs, because obviously you don't have to wait for someone to reach out to you and say, hey, I have a job, please apply for it. You can obviously also search on Upwork for jobs that you think you might be a good fit. And what I considered really helpful here is, and I think that also applies to not just Upwork, but in general to other platforms, to look for very specific, like if you just, let's assume you want to do something with Python and maybe a certain type of, I don't know, a certain type of job. And then if you're looking for such high level keywords like Python, you will get super many results. And that isn't really helpful because Python is something that lots of people know how to do. So, and what I tried to do, I was trying to search for a bit more specific things. So I was trying to think, what can I do? What are my skills that maybe is something special about me, right? And so since the Upwork platform is United States based, I said, well, I'm German, so I can speak German. So maybe I try, maybe someone wants some German people, right? Maybe someone needs a data scientist or a coder who also knows German for whatever reason. Maybe they are doing a project in Germany. So that's one of the special things I tried to search for specifically, so that German language was required, for example. And then another super small detail, I was working in my bachelor thesis with a certain database from the United States, right? And I was just trying to look if maybe I could find someone who was, who needs work and we're working with that database, right? Even if it wouldn't really be required, if they are reading an application and they read, oh, that person already worked with that database and oh, that person already has some skills and exactly what I need, that obviously is a straightforward, let's say, link to say, well, let's give it a chance, right? And that also lets your application stand out a little bit of all the others coming in, because that's also something on Upwork. Lots of people are writing, both clients and people who are looking for a job, kind of default messages. Like I would say 3-liners, just copy pasting some standard things that people would write in those kind of situations. And obviously reading that is super discouraging. So if I'm looking for someone to hire, or if I'm looking for a job and you're just getting those default replies, that's never a good sign. And that's also, I would say, never a good sign if you're looking for a job and getting those like standardized replies from the client itself, because that means it's, yeah. So yeah, and well, so my personal experience on Upwork was that I started looking for very specific things like German or that database I had worked with, or some other small details I had. I tried lots of things. So I tried lots of keywords that I got familiar with in my studies that I knew were a little bit special, maybe not super typical, a bit niche, but maybe you find someone who really wants that. And that's a good starting point to get in contact with. And then in the beginning, I did, as I said, some really kind of low paid jobs that I considered I was overqualified for, and I was maybe a bit bored with them, but okay, that's how I got started. And yeah, and then I got some good reviews, and then actually people started to reach out to me as well, sometimes also with very small jobs. And then I also started to look at the jobs that they were proposing for me to do, and let's say search results in general. And I was kind of getting a bit of a feeling what's required at the moment, right? So maybe, oh, wow, so many people are looking for that. And I kind of know it, but not too much yet. So maybe I could learn a little bit more about it. And then I would be a very, very good fit for that. So that was a learning experience. And I think that took me about, I don't know, I would say, I think my first job, I got it after a couple of days, but that was a super small one, right? And after I kind of felt a bit settled, that was maybe after 6 months or 5 or 6 months, when I had a couple of people that were constantly reaching out to me with smaller things that I felt like, okay, they are some stable clients that are maybe always asking me small things, but at least they're always reaching out to me because they already know I'm doing a good job. And then actually I got in contact with a startup from the United States who were also looking for a small job of maybe 20 hours or something like that. And then they really liked what I was doing. And then they were saying, hey, actually, we need someone who's doing more work, right? So we need someone who's maybe working 30 hours per week. You want to join and doing more of that. And so that's also something always to consider on Upwork. There might be people posting smaller things and small requests for maybe a couple of hours to maybe just a couple of weeks. But maybe in the background, they are kind of trying to hire someone. And if you do good work on that small job, and if you feel comfortable working and communicating with them, that could always happen, right? That they reach out to you and say, hey, actually, we want to hire someone, and as we started having a good experience with you, we could try like going more into that direction. So yeah. And yeah, well, that's actually what happened to me. So I'm still working with that startup, and now I'm full-time employed, even though I didn't start on Upwork with the idea of getting a full-time employment. Not at all. I was more thinking about doing kind of freelancing there. Yeah. So I mean, that's a bit my experience. So I don't know if that's.
I mean, thank you, Leonie. And if people have questions, I think that you can unmute and ask. I think that's, and then just while, like, I will ask one question while other people also can type or ask question. Is that, how did you find the pricing progress in time? Like, like putting your kind of like, 5, 10, 7, like how important was it, and what was the kind of the trick, exactly what you used, kind of like your experience?
Yeah, so as you know, there are two, I don't know if you know that, there are two types of payments in Upwork. One is a fixed payment project. So they say, hey, we pay you $300 and you have to do that job, right? And it's up to you how much time. If it takes you half an hour, if it takes you 5 hours, I don't care. I just want to get that job done. And obviously, in those cases, you have to consider, well, is that kind of appropriate, right? Because that's totally up to you. And then the other thing is hourly paid jobs. And when they say, okay, we don't know yet how much hours it will take you, but per hour, we are going to pay you this and that. And yeah, that's a bit tricky in the beginning, because there are people who are doing super small jobs for, let's say, I don't know, sometimes even lower than $5 per hour. And then you see some very high skilled, high experienced profiles with $150 per hour. So that's a huge difference, obviously. And well, as I said, for these first getting into Upwork jobs that I did, I just got paid like $5 or $7 per hour, because they weren't that complicated neither, right? And I said, okay, it's not what I want to earn, it's not what I'm expecting, but let's take it as a starting point. And then, well, it's yeah, you just, I mean, sometimes the clients give you already an idea of what they are willing to pay, minimum, maximum, right? And then it's about like, yeah, trying to find a good in-between point. Obviously, yeah, what you can do, your profile, you can point out an hourly rate on your profile, which is not necessarily what you will get paid on a job, but that gives the clients a first idea of how much he is gonna want per hour. And I just try to raise that like step by step. So in the beginning, I put 5. Then after the first job already, I put it to 7. Then after the second job, I put it to 10. And then I try to see, well, maybe I can put it to 13 now, and then to 15, and then to 20. So I did it a bit like trying out, and you can change that every day. So if you, right, so you can be really flexible about that. You can say you have it on 15 on one day, and then one day you go back to 10 if you realize that you maybe went up too fast. Yeah.
We have a question from Emmanuel.
Yeah.
So the text in the chat window. So if you see it.
Yeah. So yeah, he's asking, when applying for low-paying jobs, you see a lot of applications, and how can you stand out? So what I did, and that's really my main recommendation here, try to find something that you already know about. Like, try to find, I don't know, if you speak another language, if you speak French, if you speak, well, in my case, German, right, or whatsoever. If you have worked with, if you have focused on your university, on a specific project, if you have focused on a specific topic that you really like, try to search and try to be very specific about your search. Obviously, it's not helpful if you just type in some basic keywords and get maybe, I don't know, 200 results of possible jobs. It's better to be very specific about what you're searching for and just play around with that a bit. And then maybe you just find 3 jobs that fit to what you're searching for, but those 3 might be actually good for you, right? Okay, actually, that's a good point that you're making. If you see that there are already a lot of applications for a job, I wouldn't even try it. I actually didn't even try to get in. Like if I saw that there were, I'm not sure exactly how that, they are sometimes changing that on Upwork, but sometimes you can see how many people applied for a job or how many people reviewed that job. And that gives you a feeling for how much messages did they already get. And I kind of always figured if they already got over 50 messages, I don't even care about applying, because it's, in that case, they are really, I mean, it's tricky to, they don't have the time to do a proper research of 50 or more applicants. So they are just going to pick the first best guess I think they have. Yeah, so that's also a recommendation. Don't do too many applications if you realize maybe it's not even probable that they're going to pick me. Yeah.
Leoni, a question on the connects. Are you familiar with the connect system, and how do you use that as part of your bid strategy?
Actually, no. Actually, I never really did anything about the connects, because you can pay for them, I think. So if you're running out of them, you can pay for them. But I figured, since I wasn't doing mass applications to everything I could find, but rather specifically looking for jobs I felt, yeah, that could be a good fit, I actually didn't use too many of them. So I never run out of connects. And I mean, yeah, that's 2 types of strategies. There's one strategy to just apply to anything, and then one of them will be working out, or you specifically look for jobs, and then you don't even need too many connects. So that was my strategy, but yeah, depends, I guess, on everyone how you want to approach that. Yeah.
Did you have any experiences with quote unquote bad clients, people who were trying to not abuse, but kind of over asking and underpaying? And how did you
Well, so with the payment, I kind of was always happy, because Upwork, from my perspective, is handling that in a good way. So if you are signing the contract on Upwork, they kind of already deposit the money from the client on an in-between account on Upwork, so that it's so if the client really says, nah, I don't want to pay you, they have to have good reasons for refunding that money. And well, obviously, sometimes you have clients that I felt they were maybe a little bit unprofessional in, I don't know, wanting to sometimes even like chat with me or asking me, do you have a Facebook profile? And well, obviously, that's just when you say, okay, either you just ignore it, or you really also, if it's just a super small job, just cancel the job, because I don't like that's not relevant, right? But in general,
just on that one, like I think because this is very important.
Yeah.
So because this reviewing part, right? Someone, like you say, like you cancel the job, and then someone reviewed you bad, right? So how do you handle that kind of like that? Because that's really a current issue.
Okay, that's a good. So actually, I think I never really got a bad review. That was actually just one case where this person was kind of trying to reach out to me on a very, in my opinion, unprofessional way. And I tried to kind of be super like over professional, just to signalize him, hey, that's not how it works. And then he kind of, but still being in a certain way polite, because as you said, I didn't want to get a bad rating or a bad review. Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you just have 3 reviews and one of them is a bad rating, that's not good. That doesn't look good to people looking at your profile. But if you have already 10 or 15 good ratings, and then there's one who sounds a bit bad, that isn't, I would say, too much of a deal.
But is there a way like you can signal that to Upwork such that review is actually not appropriate?
I've never experienced that myself, so I can't speak of my own experience, but I do know that they have a kind of a good support, I would say. So if you are reaching out and obviously I would probably take a screenshot of the conversation or just some proof that maybe this rating or the bad review that they gave you is not significant or not related. But yeah, in those cases, when you feel treated in an unjust way, I would always try to reach out to the Upwork support, because they are taking a certain percentage of what you're earning. So that's what they should be doing. They should support you in those cases. Yeah.
One of the other things that we're seeing is, I think some of the jobs are they're written as small, but then the client keeps adding, okay, can you add this for a fixed price? Okay, I want this. Maybe you can add this. Maybe you can add this. Did you have instances like that, and how did you deal with that?
Yeah, I would. I mean,
and can I add on just related, because I was about to ask, and then I think it's related. So, do you recommend a job that is hourly, or like at the beginning, or a work that's like defined? Okay, this is the task, you get paid this much. Which one?
In the beginning, I think I did those fixed price payments, so fixed price project, because then you have a really good feeling about what they want from you, and that's actually also in that case, it's well, if they are requiring something additional, then you can just say, well, that wasn't the initial requirement, that will take me more hours. So I would always, in the fixed projects, I was always argumenting in that way. Well, you're asking me this and that takes me about 10 to 15 hours. So assuming that I'm getting paid this and that, that kind of is an equivalent of this maybe $200 or $300 that you're paying me. And now if you're asking that additionally, that will take me another 5 hours. So we would need to put that on top. So I wouldn't be too shy about, because that's also something that kind of shows that you're doing a good job and that you're working in a professional way, right? If you're just taking anything they say and say, yeah, okay. I guess that's showing them also that maybe you're not confident enough about the good quality work that you're doing, right? And yeah.
I think that's very important, I would say. I think that element, showing this professionalism and knowing when, yeah, that's good too.
Yeah, and think of it as well. I mean, those clients, you're probably never going to meet them, or only virtually, and maybe in a Skype interview or something like that. But if they are not recognizing your quality work, if they are not willing to pay you, then you shouldn't consider working long-term with them, right? So if you've just a small project, that's fine. It's just one project, a small one maybe. But if you realize within that project that the person is requiring too much for that money, or is wanting to add on small things and saying, no, but that's part of it, you should always think, well, if I now say you have to pay me more for this, and that's the reason why he's not giving me a second job, maybe that's how it should be, because I don't want to be working with someone who's not paying me what I kind of earn. So, I mean, that's the tricky part, is to find those clients who actually are looking for someone who does quality work and is willing to pay you what that is kind of worth. Right.
Can I ask yes or no questions from the group right now? I'll just keep asking. Have you ever had any experience with asking people to pay something for the sort of computing resources, or if there's something which is computationally intensive? Have you ever asked someone to make a contribution to like buying cloud computing resources?
I haven't, but I can imagine, as before, if that is a professional client who knows what he's asking for, he will definitely pay for that, if you are within reason explaining why it takes so much computation power and which platform or which kind of, I don't know, service you're using and how much that would be equivalent of. So yeah, I mean, I would definitely not be, I mean, it's like you're not losing anything in suggesting that, right? If you're suggesting it in a polite way and in a very straightforward way, just explaining that this costs money, computation costs money, and that's the time and resources it takes. Yeah, even if they say, now we don't have the resources for that right now, then again, you can think about, okay, what do I do with that answer? But I would always kind of, ask for those kind of things.
Okay. So what I'm getting from you, it's the almost getting connected through the algorithm is only step one, but showcasing, once you get connected, showcasing in the way you carry yourself and the interaction that you have, showcasing your competency and projecting like a job interview that you know what you're doing and you're not willing to do anything for the work is an important part of building that relationship profile, call it what you want.
Yeah, and I think also, especially in like, people like always try to put yourself into the perspective of the client. What does the client want? If people are looking for someone on Upwork to do a job, it's mostly because they didn't have time to do proper hiring on another platform. Like usually if you have a vacancy and want to hire someone, right, you would maybe post. But on Upwork, in my experience, it's mostly because people need to have someone doing something fast because they are in a hurry, they are in an urgent situation. They maybe should do it themselves, but they have too much on their table, so they can't do it. So in the beginning, showing in interviews and in the first communication, showing that you're professional, but also that you are kind of, straightforward and knowing that it's not something that will be done within 2 months, probably, if it's a small job, right? Most cases, they just want to have it done within a couple of days and then they are happy with it. And that depends on the client. Some clients are different, but always try to think, what does the client want from me and how can I show him? And if I want to fulfill that, how can I show him that I know that he wants that? And yeah.
Okay. Just last question from anybody. Otherwise, we'll wrap up. Pause for 20 seconds. I guess we're good.
Yeah, I think great. I think there will be a lot of questions probably over like when people are in and trying to figure out. And would you be willing to answer some of those questions if we forward it by email?
Sure. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So there is one last question, as we said, like which category?
So I actually didn't study data science. I studied geography with a focus on geographical science and geoinformatics, right? But when I started on Upwork, I tried to find jobs that were a bit more into the geographical area, and there weren't too many. So I started to say, okay, what IT skills do I have? Because that's what Upwork is mostly about, stuff you can do on your computer. And then I was kind of moving into the data science area. Although in the beginning, I did some very easy Excel jobs because, well, that's something I had on my computer. And there were lots of people who just wanted small things on Excel that they didn't know anything about, which for me was easy. So that's always good in the beginning to get started. I was also doing a bit like looking into Python and data analytics and the data visualizations into that area. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. I hope it helped.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps, and really thank you.
Yeah. All right.
Cheers.
Have a great week, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.